The hunt is back on. Season 3B of Shadowhunters has finally arrived, so let's find out just what happened. Rise and shine on, Shadowhunters family. Lisa here, and it's kind of a bittersweet moment as the final episodes of Shadowhunters have arrived. And you know I'm going to be talking all about this premiere episode. But if you want to keep the conversation going, I got to give a shout out to Amino and say thank you for sponsoring this episode. That's right. If you don't know what Amino is, it's a really awesome app that's right on your phone, which means you can take it anywhere. And it's an awesome place with a ton of communities where you can talk to fans just like yourself about your favorite TV shows, your favorite movies, your favorite celebrities, music, even your favorite hobbies. Yes, it's an awesome community where you can also create fan fiction, show off your fan art, participate in polls, take quizzes, all kinds of fun stuff that'll keep you entertained for hours. And even after you're done talking about this episode with me, you can talk about all the moments that blew you away in tonight's episode on the Amino app. I even created a poll in the Shadowhunters Amino about which duo of characters storyline you're excited to see play out the rest of this season. So go ahead and click that link down in the description below to download Amino right now. Vote in the poll, and yeah, let's go ahead and talk about this week's episode. Alright, so if you remember, Simon's mark ended up causing a huge explosion, leaving everyone to believe that Clary was dead. So we pick up in that aftermath, and as everyone is mourning her in their own way. And as you can expect, no one's handling it that well. Now it seems like we're picking up maybe like 3 days afterwards, and Simon isn't handling things that well because he blames himself for Clary's death since it was his mark that caused that explosion, and he hasn't even left his apartment. Maya finally returns, and it's a little tense since Maya kind of disappeared when Simon really needed her the most, and Simon felt alone during this devastating time. But she does her best to comfort him and tells him that none of this was his fault, but he refuses to leave the apartment with her at all because he feels like he is a danger to everyone, because Clary had been behind the person who was attacking him and it activated his mark, so basically he thinks he could hurt any innocent person, within reach. Maya now doesn't know quite what to do, so she goes to see Izzy to ask for some help, but you can feel that there's a little tension between these two, as Izzy does not hesitate to inform Maya the big moments that she missed in Simon's life when Maya went and disappeared without a trace. And by the big moments that she missed, I'm meaning what happened with Heidi and Simon's family, and Simon having to, erase his mom's mind and make her think that he was dead again. Yeah, Maya's definitely feeling that guilt trip, but Izzy tells Maya that they should really go talk to Raphael in Detroit if they want to maybe get some answers about Simon's mark and maybe how to get rid of it. Now obviously, given what Raphael has done in the past, especially with Heidi and ultimately what happened with Simon, you can bet that Simon is not thrilled to have to spend half a month's rent to get a portal to Detroit to see Raphael. But Simon's desire to get that mark off his head outweighs his hatred for Raphael right now, so he goes to see the vampire. And I'm not gonna lie, I was actually kind of happy to see Raphael back on my screen. Simon ends up finding Raphael in a community center where it seems like he's feeding the homeless, and Raphael genuinely apologizes to Simon for everything. And you can see that there's still a lot of hurt in Raphael, and part of me just wanted to, reach through my screen and give both of these two a hug and just be like, it's gonna be okay, guys. Talk it out. We're here for each other. Have a therapy session. I mean, I'd pay money for a portal for that. Unfortunately for Simon, Raphael doesn't really have any information about that mark, but he has heard of someone who has. There's a legend about the oldest living vampire hiding out in the sewers of New York, but unfortunately, no one's ever seen him or even heard his name, which means that he'd probably be the person to talk to, right? Now hearing this, you can bet Simon's kind of like, dude, you're crazy. This has to be some kind of myth, made up shiz. But Raphael's pretty clever, using one of the taglines from the show.
Aren't all the legends true?
So Simon returns to New York and packs up and is ready to head into the sewers with Izzy, who's gone off to get a map of the sewer system. But Maya, she's actually not gonna go with them. She doesn't really think it's a good idea to have a werewolf present if they're trying to get a vampire to talk. It may just kind of hinder their operation. But then we kind of get the awkwardness, like where does their relationship status lie, that kind of stuff. As Maya's kind of like, well, if you do want me to go, I can go. And Simon's like, well, no, you shouldn't go. Actually, yeah, all of this. It's a little bit awkward, but ultimately they tell each other that neither of them are alone and they're always going to be there for each other if they ever need to talk. But basically, it feels like it's kind of time to officially say bye to Simon and Maya and maybe open up those doors for Sizzy, right? As for Magnus, he's struggling with living without his magic and facing some pretty harsh realities, like how hard it is to do eyeliner without magic. I'm sure lots of people around the world are agreeing with Magnus on this point. Anyway, what I love kind of about Magnus and Alec's storyline in this episode is we get a sneak peek as to what it would be like if Magnus and Alec had a family and were dads. Like, sign me up for this spin-off. Anybody want a spin-off of that? Like My Two Dads? I mean, there was a show previously in the 80s or 90s called My Two Dads. Nothing, it was a little different though. But this, I would totally watch this spin-off or web shorts or whatever. But we get to see, you know, their paternal instincts come out when they babysit Madsy, who comes to stay with Magnus while Katarina's at a nursing convention.
All right, come on. Sweet dreams.
See you later, alligator.
After a while, crocodile.
Like, seriously, watching this, I don't know if I could love Alec anymore. Like, when he goes to read bedtime stories to Madsy and he wants to play with her, I had to, like, tell my ovaries to stop feeling things, because, yeah, I'm not having kids anytime soon, unless someone who looks like Matthew Daddario walks through the door sometime soon. So after they go and put Madsy to bed one night, we get this actual fun moment, which was one of my favorites from the episode, too.
What?
She's right behind the door.
So I can't kiss my boyfriend?
Oh, you know how we get.
It's kind of like, what do you guys get up to? Is that like the X-rated version of Shadowhunters? I'm sure there's some fans who would totally watch that. But unfortunately, as they're outside the door, trouble interrupts as Iris shows up to try to take Madsy back. And Magnus's reflexes are to use his magic, and he throws up his arms, but nothing obviously happens. And Alec is actually there to save the day and use his bow to fend off Iris for now. But you can see just how devastated Magnus is that, you know, he couldn't do something to protect Madsy in that moment. So it's like, how did Iris get in, right? Well, unfortunately, when Magnus lost his powers, so did the wards, and yeah, Madsy's kind of in danger, so that's why Iris was able to portal in. So now they send Madsy off to stay with the High Warlock of Estonia for protection, but they're determined that they need to find Iris. So Magnus wants to help, but Alec tries to stop him because he doesn't want Magnus to get hurt. But it's Magnus's knowledge of Iris that he knows will come in handy, and Magnus pleads his case, so he gets to go with Alec and Izzy to look for Iris. Iris ends up showing up outside of a supply store for a bit of a battle and ends up taking Magnus hostage with her. She then tries to get him to give up Madsy's location, but when Magnus won't, she's kind of forced to go through Magnus's memories. And, well, you know, Magnus has been alive a very long time, so that boy has got lots of memories for her to sift through. And, yeah, turns out to be a bigger task than she bargained for. She's kind of saved by the fire message, though, because she gets a message from Katarina saying that Iris was right and that Madsy should be with her Nana. And Magnus is really confused at this point because he's like, oh wait, no, that's Katarina's writing. What the heck is going on here? But it turns out it's all just part of a plan from Izzy and Alec in order to catch Iris. So with a little bit of magic, they set up a decoy and end up catching Iris. Magnus, however, is still pretty upset he couldn't protect Madsy, and he feels like he wasn't strong enough, and it's Alec that is right there to be the loving friend and boyfriend and reassure Magnus that he is so strong for holding his ground and keeping Iris away from those memories, and that strength isn't just about, you know, the physical stuff and the magic, that there's a lot of inner strength in Magnus. And so yeah, it's just like, there's so many cute Malec moments in this episode. So for all you Malec shippers, I kind of feel like you're losing your mind in this episode, right? But Magnus, he's regained a little bit of pep in his step and is determined to not get beat up again. So he finally wants to learn how to actually like fight and defend himself. And well, it's kind of super handy that he has this super hot boyfriend that happens to be amazing at training people. And anybody else, raise your hand if you're excited for the upcoming Alec and Magnus training scenes. Yes, me, you. Okay, so let's move on now to Jace, who as expected is also not having a great time in this episode. Clary's death and the blame that he feels is really hitting him hard. Add on top of that all the memories he still has from the owl and remembering all the horrible things he did to the innocent people and stuff. Yeah, he's definitely not in a good mindset, and it's even affecting his work. There's a point when he seems like he might even do something bad to himself when he grabs a dagger, but Izzy manages to walk in and stop him and talk him down from that situation. Now when it comes time to the next mission of finding Iris, Jace is kind of all gung-ho to help out, but Alec is like, dude, you gotta calm down, you have orders. to take some time off and clear your head, because right now Jace is acting like he has a death wish, and it's just not okay. But Jace, he doesn't really care what Alec is saying to him until Alec says these words.
If I lost you, I'd be lost too.
You're right. I didn't think of it like that.
That finally gets through to Jace, and he realizes he needs to take care of himself. He then gets a call from Luke and heads over to the Tropical Isle, seedy kind of looking motel where Luke has been staying. And yeah, seems like Luke's kind of worked himself into an obsession trying to find out what happened to Clary, because he's got evidence boards and stuff all over this room. Yeah, it seems like Jace is finally the sane one here, telling Luke that maybe, Luke needs to take a rest and talk about this with someone. But Luke, he's got a theory he wants to share. When he was a young shadow hunter, he heard of a rare form of interdimensional travel that demons use, and from all the evidence he's gathered about that night, he thinks that Lilith used it the night of the explosion, meaning that what if the apartment never exploded but was moved just before the explosion to make it seem like, well, it exploded. And basically that theory would mean that Clary is alive, just somewhere else. So now Jace, he's kind of thinking this is horse hockey, like he's not really buying it, even after Luke shows him like another time with this, I think the church or whatever, where it was used. But Jace does agree to look into the data that Luke gives him. And well, as viewers, we know that Luke is not crazy, he's actually absolutely right. Yes, Clary is alive and well. Okay, maybe not well, but she is alive as she wakes up in the same apartment, but now she's in Siberia and she is not alone. Everything Lilith was trying to do has worked, and Jonathan has been resurrected and is back with his real face, which introduces us to Luke Baines as part of the cast. Now, I feel like if you were to take a shot every time Jonathan mentions Clary and family and being his sister and all of this kind of stuff, you'd be drunk in the snap of a finger. But this guy, he's definitely excited to have some family. Now, Jonathan says that Clary is safe because at this point, if Clary went out into the world, she'd be killed on sight by the Clave because of all of her defenses. But Jonathan, he says she's safe here and he's ready to protect her. But Clary wants nothing to do with this crazy guy that she's like, who the hell are you? Even if you are my brother, I'm getting away from you. So she ends up grabbing her coat and bolting out into the snow to try to find somewhere to go. But unfortunately, it just looks like an endless landscape of mountains and snow, and eventually she passes out. But Jonathan has been following her and he picks her up and takes her back to the apartment. When Clary wakes up, she still refuses food and to take anything from Jonathan because she wants nothing to do with him, and she's like, I am nothing like you, even though Jonathan tells her that he's changing and that some of Clary's good must be inside of him too, and that kind of stuff. And he's determined to prove to Clary that he is different. Jonathan then leaves to get firewood, and when he returns, he tells Clary that they can take this apartment anywhere they want to go. And he knows that she's always wanted to go to Paris, so it seems like that's going to be their next stop. And Clary, well, by this time she kind of has a sneaky little plan as she holds something behind her back, and she decides to play along like she's excited to go to Paris with Jonathan. But then, surprise, she tries to stab him up through his chin. Oh, it's through his chin. It's pretty gross, but surprise, it doesn't go as planned. Yeah, Clary learns the hard way that she and Jonathan are now linked together, I'm assuming from that new room they both have. And yeah, if someone hurts Jonathan, they hurt Clary too, which is going to prove to make things very difficult for anyone trying to rescue Clary and kill Jonathan. So yeah, I think those were like the big major events of this week's premiere episode. Some other really quick things: we have Clary, she ends up getting posthumously pardoned for her crimes against the Clave, but the console is definitely keeping a close eye on Alec's every move, just waiting for him to mess up. We also learn that somebody's broken the Accords and is torturing prisoners, which is something that's been outlawed for like 100 years, and right now all signs are also pointing to the console, who definitely seems like a shady woman. And well, that pretty much wraps up this episode of Shadowhunters. Okay, so honestly, by now, if you've watched my channel and my recaps, I've said it a bunch of times, I still haven't read the books. I'm basically a fan of the show, but I'm still in the fandom, right? That's okay. But from what I remember reading about summaries of the books, isn't it Jace that ends up getting bonded to Jonathan? Am I mistaken in that? If I am, I apologize. But if it is that in the books, what do you think about this switch? Does it make it more interesting? Does it make the stakes higher? What do you think? I'm curious, so you guys hit me up down in the comments and let me know what you think about all of that. But yeah, Shadowhunters is back. I'm excited to see how these episodes play out. I know it's kind of bittersweet. but I'm gonna soak it in while we can. And as always, I'm excited for Malec and to see what happens with that relationship. But one other thing I'm really excited about is to learn more about Simon and this Mark and this mysterious old vampire. For now, let's go ahead and take a look at the promo for the next episode.
I like seeing you in your Shadowhunter mode.
I told you not to flirt with me. I was so close to giving up. She needs us.
Maybe I do owe you a chance.
I think you're the vampire I'm looking for. I just want to ask about the mark of Cain. I just need to get this off.
All right, Shadowhunters fam, it looks like it's going to be a fun wrap up to this season, to this show. Obviously, like I said, bittersweet, but we got to hold on to it and cherish it while we can, right? Yeah, so now it's time for you to hit up the comments and let me know your thoughts on this premiere episode and what you want to see play out in these upcoming episodes. Plus, let me know your favorite moment from this episode. After that, you can hit me up, like I said, in the comments or over on the Shadowhunters Amino, and then click right over here for my recent interview with Kat McNamara, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of my videos. As always, thank you for hanging out with me, and I will see you guys next time.